energy weapons that no one can see. You can't do that.
Okay, I got. Okay,
because you have no proof.
Confused there.
And that's unfair to her.
Yes, I agree.
You understand? This is why you have supervised visits, my friend. Because you cannot tell her this stuff, and your urge to want to tell her this stuff is destructive to her, which is why you're not allowed to see her unsupervised.
How does you know that? Now it's quite possible that that is actually the reason, although I've never been told that that is the reason. But it's possible that something underhand is going on between the court, between this women's shelter organization, the district attorney office, and my ex-wife. That this might actually be the reason. Thanks for pointing that out, Stefan. But like he's saying that you have this urge to tell her. And how does you know that? When did I express that urge? So he obviously has some other sources. He has heard. He has learned from somebody other than me that is why I'm under supervised visitation. Because he can't be making this claim just because of the conversation that we had. That is highly unlikely. I would say close to not possible at all. So where is he coming from? And he's not revealing that. So that confirms and explains why he is being so disingenuous, disingenuous throughout this conversation. He is being so uncharacteristic. So whatever he believes in, whatever he passionately speaks about, whatever he passionately believes in, he's going against that. He is kicking that out of the way, and he's latching onto this that you are imagining this, and nothing like this has ever happened. It cannot happen. It is not there. Science technology doesn't explain it. And police didn't understand it, and I don't understand it, so it's not possible at all. So that it explains why he has been holding that line throughout this conversation, which is about 2 hours and 20 minutes now.
So they're winning. Even in your own worldview, they're winning because you're trying to tell her this stuff, which you have no proof for.
So again, he's indicating that you are doing the wrong thing by sticking to the claim that you're being covertly harassed, because that is just going to lead you not to have what you want, which is have a regular contact with your daughter. So he's saying you're suffering because you continue to claim that you are being covertly harassed, which is again very, very surprising coming from Stefan, because that's what he so passionately has spoken about in his podcasts and his videos, that you have that when one is fighting for justice and truth, then they will be pressured, they will be kicked, and they will be trampled upon, and they will be told that unless you accept the falsehoods and the lies, you will keep suffering. And so he's saying exactly the same thing, and it's uncanny. I mean, how a person, how that can happen. I mean, it's so astounding to me, and I think anybody who hears these videos and hears this conversation will find it very, very astonishing and surprising, and he's doing it.
Not that I'm trying to tell her. I have never actually ever tried to tell her anything.
No, don't change the goalposts. I'm not talking about the past. Man, you are slippery.
So he's now claiming that I'm slippery. And who are you? What are you, Stefan? Are you a little bit slippery? With what you claim so passionately in your podcast about state, justice, truth, and non-aggression principle, and then when it is convenient, you just uh, kick all that to the curb. So who's being slippery here? Can you see that? You might be getting a little bit slippery here.
Guy.
No, I mean,
Sanjay, the well-oiled debate partner. Okay,
So I'm speechless here. I'm trying to figure out like what to say.
Sanjay, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this.
Sure.
What happens emotionally
Yeah.
if this is not true? What happens to you emotionally if nobody really does care about you? If nobody really is following you? If you're not the center of somebody's big plot? What happens to you emotionally? Because I did notice, Sanjay, I couldn't help but notice that this stuff first emerged when you were alone, and I assume lonely. And it happens when you're alone, and I assume lonely. And when you went back to your wife and you weren't alone, and
No, I was alone for few months, for months, and before I was married, I was also alone. So I was, I think I mentioned that I was working in US, and I also spent some time in London, and I was staying alone most of the time. So he's now trying to pin it on being alone, which is so sad, Stefan. There are so many people who live by themselves in US, and if I mean you're like, uh, are you screwing like every one of them, or just those who are claiming to be covertly harassed?
too lonely, it went away. And when you were in the psychiatric institution, when you weren't alone anymore, it went away.
Right.
And it's constantly driving you to solitude because you got to go move to new places. You got to go sleep in your car alone in the middle of nowhere. It isolates you, right? So what happens if this?
Actually, if I'm in the middle of nowhere, I'm quite happy if I have to sleep in the car and there are and I'm inaccessible, then I don't have any exposure. If nobody can drive in those big black tinted windowed SUVs and use those energy devices, then I sleep very well. I feel refreshed uh, I'm happy. So. In any case, so he's latching on to this being alone aspect.
It's not true. Just entertain it for a moment, right?
Why should I?
I can entertain the idea that I'm a terrible philosopher.
Oh, you
what
are.
happens if I'm just very glib? What happens if I'm
Apparently.
just a sophist? What happens if I'm just verbally acute but fundamentally dense, right? I can entertain all of those possibilities, and I could write.
Yes.
I can play the devil's advocate position.
So he's now trying to persuade me that entertain this thought because I can entertain these other thoughts. That I'm not intelligent, I'm stupid, I'm not a philosopher at all. So he's, I mean, obviously all of that is not true. He will not entertain those thoughts because they are not true, but he's claiming that he will entertain. So he's trying to persuade me to entertain the thought that this all might be a figment of imagination.
So my question is, Sanjay, what happens if you accept my case here that you have no proof, you have no evidence, and it's incredibly destructive to your life, and it will destroy your life? You understand this? This will destroy.
Oh, so that's almost a threat from, almost as if it came as a threat from these harassment agencies, that if you don't stop claiming that this is this is physical covert harassment and not a figment of your imagination, you will be destroyed. Want the harassment agencies love to say that. So, Stefan, you're, I think, here repeating what uh, they want you to say and ask me. And how do you feel about it? So after this conversation, can you go in front of the mirror, and say that all the claims that you make about having people to coexist together, reduce the suffering in the world, uphold truth and uphold reasoning and believe in science and reasoning. So can you go in front of the mirror and and look at yourself and say that yes, I did that today. I stood for truth and reason, and I want to make this place a better world.
Your life, it will destroy your health. It's already destroyed your relationships. It destroyed your career. It's destroying your finances. So this will destroy your life. What if?
So how does he know that this will destroy my life? Okay, so I am low uh, in terms of finances. I have lost another job, and I hardly get to see my daughter. But how does he know that this will destroy my life? And there are so many people who can lose their jobs. There are so many people who can be low on financial. There are so many people who are not able to see their children, especially the fathers, because of the way the court system and the family law system works. So how does that equate to your life being destroyed? And how does he know that my life is being destroyed? Maybe I'm having parties. Maybe I'm going out to the clubs. Maybe I'm having sex other night. How does he know? What does he know that? Uh, 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 Other than the conversation I have had for now, it's about 2 hours and 15 minutes. So how does he know that I'm not having a fulfilling, I'm not having a blast? So obviously, he's being disingenuous. So he has some other sources which he's relying on, and another indication that he's co-opting with the harassment agencies or the perpetrators of this harassment, and he's not letting it on. Uh, he's not letting it on, and this way he is uh, is being dishonest with himself. Okay, not with himself, he knows what he's doing, but he's being dishonest and disingenuous with his listeners, and because he's not explaining, and it's very unlikely that he will explain why he's doing that. The stakes might be too high for him to do that. So, uh, I mean, basically, he is deceiving his listeners, and that is so disappointing because I loved hearing him and listening to him, and and the worldview that he has and he speaks about is so illuminating. There's a lot of information that she gives. So, uh, but now, I mean, he's being so deceptive and disingenuous. So it's kind of scary that for a person who claims to have alternative analysis of things around us uh, is actually capable of using quite a decent dose of deception.
It wasn't true. What would happen to you emotionally if you just tried that hat on for size? That it just wasn't true. Just wasn't. You're not being targeted. It's all just accidental. Maybe it's hallucinatory. Maybe you need to get your ears checked. I don't know. But what if there is no energy weapons? What if there is no big group of people who are harassing you? What happens to you emotionally? Because it seems to me that if you're not being targeted by these people, who cares about you?
No, it's not true.
Well, who cares about people who say who go to college and then go to another country to work? I mean, there are so many people who have to go to work, have to, and especially with men, they have to go out of their city or town and have to seek their fortune in other places. They have to um, accept the challenge of being in new places, being in different places, and trying to make better life for their people. So that happens all the time. It happens in US all the time. It happens in other countries all the time. So he's now playing in this. He's again playing a psychological trick. He's playing on the emotions that because I'm seeing my daughter so little, and whom I love so much. I care for her so much, and unconditionally. And so obviously it's obvious that it is a great loss not to be able to participate in bringing up a wonderful child like my daughter. So he's playing on that emotion, on that grief, on that loss, and he is hoping that I will admit that that grief and that loss is playing tricks with me. And it can play tricks, although many times it doesn't also, because people are capable of taking that loss and moving on. He's somehow trying to grab at the chance that maybe I realize that, or maybe I feel that that loss is so big that I might be getting unhinged, which is not true.
So I think your conclusion was based on what we spoke about, which is of course a very, very small fraction of what has actually transpired.
Yes, but I'm going to assume you give me the most convincing stuff, right? I'm not going to assume you give me. I assume that.
No, that is not true. I mean, it's not as if I was preparing for this conversation for hours and I have my notes prepared, or I have